Welcome to Hard Cam Wrestling Podcast, where falls count anywhere. There are no disqualifications and a 2-hour time limit. Introducing the participants. The opinionated one, Ryan Sangster. The 18-year-old piece of gold, Joseph Parr. The real deal, the anti-Miz, Ryan Palmer. And the real franchise, James Richards.
Welcome to the Hardcam Wrestling Group podcast. We're doing a special interview today with Sean Only. You might know him from some of his work around Leeds, around Liverpool, around Birkenhead. So we're just going to sit back, myself, Ryan Sangster, and Joseph Parr.
Hello.
I'm going to sit back with Sean Only.
Hello.
Basically, just kick it and see how this thing works.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Cool. So, how have you been coping then? Obviously, at the moment, we're in a state of lockdown. We have been for like the last year or so. So, how have you been coping, like in regards to like obviously because you haven't been able to wrestle and stuff? So, how's that been working out?
Yeah, I mean it's not been ideal, obviously, but it's not been ideal for anybody. Because we're in like the third section of lockdown now. I think the first time my assumption was just because we'd never seen anything like this before. So during the first lockdown, my assumption was just like, oh, it's not going to go on for very long. Like I wasn't really that concerned because I just assumed like, oh, next week it'll be done. Next week it'll be done. Next week it'll be done. You know, just like the weeks rolling on and rolling on. So I guess like I wasn't really thinking like taking it that seriously by that point. During the second lockdown, I know like it was sort of hitting home a little bit more, but like I was trying to stay positive and whatnot. Now it's the third one. I'll be totally honest. Like this is the first time that I've been, not that I haven't been missing wrestling, missing the fans and missing shows. I've been missing it like dearly, but this is the first time I feel like it's really gotten to me. I've been sort of maintaining positivity and stuff up to this point, but I think now we're in like the third one. It's just got to the point. I just want to go back out there and do my thing. You know, it's like I feel like it's killing me. But by the same token, like it's the same for everybody. So I don't want to be complaining about it. You know, it is what it is, and it's a terrible situation for us all. But like I'm sure I speak for an awful lot of people when I say like we just want to get back out there and do it. You know.
Right. So obviously you said that you've been obviously missing wrestling, but with the fact that you can't wrestle anymore, like with other wrestling companies still running, have you been able to catch up with more wrestling than you'd be able to usually?
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot more time for that. I'll be honest, that initially watching, you know, the sort of current wrestling climate without any fans there was like a little bit of a struggle for me because it's such a fundamental part of wrestling and of shows. And I think that something that people don't really necessarily consider is that it's the fans that decide who's popular, who is over, and that's like the fundamental thing like about wrestling. Like that kind of determines, you know, everything on the card, like who's the champion, who's getting pushed, who's not getting pushed. It all generally comes down to, you know, who the fans decide is who is over. And we currently don't really know who's over because the fans aren't there in that sort of visceral way to give us that immediate reaction and give us that immediate information. So yeah, I'm digressing here a little bit, but yeah, it was initially a bit of a struggle because it was such a shock to the system with things being so different, such a fundamental part of it being taken away. But I've been really, really enjoying catching up on WWE, particularly like the last couple of months. I think the storytelling's been absolutely fantastic. Like in the circumstances, particularly, there's been a lot of really, really strong stuff going on on TV, and it's good to have the opportunity to have the time to catch up with it, which I don't generally normally get.
Yeah, Roman Reigns is doing some brilliant stuff at the moment in WWE.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think he's one of the best heels that we've seen on TV in probably quite a while, possibly a few years.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, like you say, it's a hard thing with not having a crowd there because I know a lot of wrestlers do say that when they're in the ring and that they can change a match based on the crowd's reaction. You know what I mean? So I can imagine that'd be hard to wrestle without fans and not being able to gauge, you know, how to change it to make, you know, certain wrestlers go over that bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I think a lot of people don't really necessarily realize how much interaction from the fans like affects the outcome of not necessarily the outcome of a match, but the content of a match, and how things can be like adjusted on the fly. And yeah, like to your point, like it's definitely going to be like an adjustment process, because these things aren't occurring at all right now. And like I say, we don't know who's popular and who isn't. We can only kind of go on I don't know, I guess like internet reaction and stuff like that, and I guess we can kind of work out ourselves who the most entertaining people are to us individually. But again, it's more of a sort of it's the hive mind in it of what the wrestling fans as a collective sort of decide upon, and that's what we're sort of fundamentally missing out on at the moment.
Yeah, 100% agree. When was the last time that you can remember wrestling in yourself? Has it been a year now, or?
No, well, I mean, because the restriction started in, like, what was it, like March? To be honest, I kind of wish I had. I don't have any records of this, but I was wrestling right up until sort of like the last weekend of restrictions coming in, pretty much. So I either end of February or beginning of March. I can't remember exactly, but that would have been the last time I was. I mean, I've been in a ring since then, because training did resume at one point a little while ago, and then it stopped. But the last time I've been in a ring in front of a crowd would have been either late Feb or early March. I forget which at the moment. But yeah, it's coming up to a year. It's a long time for anyone.
Yeah, so you're proper desperate to get back in front of that crowd now, then.
100%. Well, 110%. if that's the thing.
Yeah. Brilliant. So how was it that you actually became a fan of wrestling? Like, was it like when you were a child? Did you have like a certain like wrestler that you just happened to click onto? Like a lot of people say, the likes of Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold, Sting, Ric Flair. You know, was anyone that caught your eye to make you become a fan originally? Can you remember? Or
I mean, I think it was the general product, like, originally. I mean, obviously there were certain guys that I was a big fan of. It was sort of the very early 90s that I it was the very early 90s that I kind of got my interest in wrestling started. Sort of Bret Hart and Macho Man were the ones that kind of stood out. But I think for me it was the general just it's just the bright colors and the huge characters and the larger than life kind of personas and whatnot, and everything was just so big and in your face that it really sort of spoke to me at the time. And then sort of delving further into it, just the storylines and the psychology of it. I guess the psychology of it didn't really occur to me at a young age, but like it was there was a clear interest there, if you know what I mean. I didn't sort of realize what that interest was until a bit later on, but like the idea of, I don't want to say manipulating a crowd, because that sounds like bad in some way. It sounds like some sort of Machiavellian scheme, but you know what I mean. The psychology of how a wrestler sort of dictates what the reactions that the crowd gives or doesn't give. It's always kind of like fascinated me, that kind of side of it.
Was there like a specific moment or a time when you thought this is exactly what I'm going to do when I grow up?
Yeah, I can very much give you a very, very specific moment. I think it's 1993, summertime. There was a match between Razor Ramon and I don't think he was called the 1-2-3 Kid at the time. He'd been pushed as an enhancement talent, as a jobber in the previous weeks, and then he had a match with the 1-2-3 Kid. Then he had a match with Razor Ramon on Raw, and got this sort of like lucky sort of fluke, as it was pushed at the time, kind of pinfall victory. So I was watching this as a very young kid, very impressionable young kid as well. And there was definitely a sense of like, oh, that 1-2-3 Kid guy, like he kind of looks like a normal person. Like maybe that's something that a normal person could do. I think up until that point, I'd been like, it's for superheroes. I don't have, like, I wasn't bitten by a radioactive spider, so I'm not gonna be able to do any of that stuff, you know. I'm no Hulk Hogan or Ultimate Warrior or like whatever. So it's not for me. But yeah, seeing that kind of really sort of, made me put the brakes on and made me think like, oh, maybe. And it kind of sowed the seeds in later years. Like, obviously, it was a path that I decided to venture down.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like the likes of the 1, 2, 3 kid and some of the smaller guys and that gets you more believing that this is something I can do. Like maybe like a Daniel Bryan of nowadays and stuff. You know, the smaller guys that are more like relatable than like your Hulk Hogan that's like jacked up and stuff like that. You know, so
Yeah,
like hey,
really. I mean, it's a different type of character and a different type of thing for the fans to get behind as well. And I think beyond that, just the storytelling of that particular match, because like I say, he'd been pushed as, I mean, we all know what the term jobber means. He'd been pushed as a jobber
yeah,
in the previous weeks, and like I didn't know what the term jobber was at the time, obviously being a 10-year-old kid, but I fully understood who the guys that lose were and who the guys that win were. And the
yeah,
guys that lost never, ever, ever, ever won. And to see one of them like win for the first time, it was so shocking and felt like such a monumental thing. But yeah, like I said, it stuck. I mean, that was what oh God, 27 years ago or something. It stuck with me for that.
yeah,
That long.
yeah. Because if it was 93, it'd be about 27 years. 'Cause I'd have been what 2.
I wouldn't have even been born, so.
You're making me feel old now. You're making me feel old. This wasn't part of the deal.
So, how was it then when you then decided that it was going to be something for you? Like, how did you start getting into it? Like trainers, and how did you start getting like booked for matches and stuff?
I guess I started thinking about the idea when I was I guess about 18. So I started kind of like lifting weights and whatnot, trying to get myself into. I wasn't like a massively athletic kid. I wasn't like pick first for the sports team or anything like that. So I felt like
All right, okay.
I felt like I needed to do something to work myself up to the point where it was even feasible that I could even consider sort of training for wrestling. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm going back to like the early 2000s here, so it wasn't quite as accessible as it is now. So I tried to sort of get myself in better shape, try to lift weights. I started doing martial arts. That was when I started kickboxing, and sort of had a little bit of a hand in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at that point as well. And then I guess it was probably about a year later. So yeah, I guess I was like 19, 20 when I moved to Leeds, and that was when I started training with the late Jeff Kay and the late Drew McDonald, two like huge influences and huge mentors on me in my sort of like the early stages of my wrestling career. I just sort of learned the ropes from those guys, and they were my early kind of in with the wrestling business as well. It was through them that I got all my sort of early bookings and made all my contacts and whatnot. But I mean, the landscape of wrestling was completely different at this point. I'm sort of going back to like around about 2004, 2005. That was when I sort of first was knocking about.
Yeah. Yeah, well, is that why you moved to Leeds? Was it so you moved to Leeds to then start this career, or was that just on the cards anyway?
It was 100%. I mean, it's hard to remember what when you're that young, like you got a lot of ideas, and you're like the only solid one really was learning to wrestle. I was living in Lancaster at the time with I was living in Lancaster at the time anyway, and I was basically looking to find out what the best places to train were. So it wasn't like I was moving to Leeds for any specific reason other than the training school. I remember like I feel like there was one in Nottingham and maybe one in I forget now because it's so long ago. But there was a few options, and it sounded like training with Jeff Kay and Drew McDonald seemed like the most conducive way of doing things. So I plumped for Leeds. I've been here ever since. Actually, to be fair, but I've been in Leeds a long time now. So it's served me well. I do like this place. Like obviously, I love going back home. I love going back to Birkenhead and to Liverpool, and that's where my family are. So I visit as much as I can. But yeah, no, Leeds is fantastic. It's been a good base of operations, and it's kind of fairly central. So wrestling in the northeast or wrestling down south is not as much of an imposition as it would be, if I was coming from further north or coming from further south.
Yeah. You've had a lot of bookings around Leeds and that over the years as well, haven't you? So it's obviously it's worked out quite well.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't a huge wrestling scene for a long time, but over the last sort of 5-6 years or so, I feel like Leeds has been probably one of the stronger wrestling cities in the country, really. To give it.
Would there be
Brilliant.
like a promotion now that you consider like your home promotion, or is it just like every promotion is sort of like a home to you?
Um, that's a tough question. I feel like there's not really any way of answering that without feeling like I'm not giving the due respect to like someone else, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like obviously I've got although it's not where I live currently, like I've got to give props to Wrestle Island because it's my hometown promotion. You know what I mean? It's like I'd never wrestled in Birkenhead before Wrestle Island came along, and it maybe sounds a bit kind of corny. It maybe sounds a bit like, what, your dream was to wrestle in Birkenhead? What you on about? But yeah, it was a bit of a dream come true, legitimately. When Wrestle Island came along, because it's such a legitimately Birkenhead thing as well. It's not just here's some shows in Birkenhead. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's a proper Birkenhead company. So I really love that place. And yeah, in terms of like base promotions, I'd probably say Tidal and Rise, because they're so close to home, and like I've been so heavily involved in so many kind of storylines and angles and whatnot with those places, and without wanting to draw the curtain back too much, I'm pleased to say that I've been given quite a lot of creative control as well, which in those companies specifically, which makes me feel a lot more. I know it's a lot more satisfying when things work out, and it makes me feel like, like I say, like it's a home company. But honestly, like, I'm not trying to sound corny or like I'm trying to placate everybody, but I could list every single place that I work and be like, yeah, that's my home company because I love it there, and like, you know what I mean.
Brilliant. It's good that you've been able to have so many companies though that you do feel like home. I know there is people, wrestlers out there that have been to companies and they've been treated maybe not as well as they feel that they should have. So they've got like a sour note towards some of the companies that they've worked for in the past. So obviously yourself, you seem to be quite happy with pretty much every company that you've worked with up until this point.
Like I'm gonna caveat this with saying I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't want to throw anybody under the bus at any point. But like, I certainly wouldn't say that I'm happy with every company that I've ever worked for. But like, certainly all the companies that that I currently have associations with, like, are all a-okay, good peeps and whatnot.
Brilliant. Yeah. We don't want to get you into any trouble. So I've seen you myself personally wrestle a few times for the likes of TNT over in Liverpool, where you've been obviously the Extreme Champion there, Wrestle Island and Birkenhead, where you were I think, was it the first champion, was you there?
No. Drew Parker was the first champ. I beat Drew. I don't want to commit to this. I'm 99.9% sure of this, but I believe I was the second champ because I beat Drew.
Fucking Google.
It's okay. Yeah, I just remember being there on the show that you won the belt. I remember it was Drew. I couldn't remember if he was the champion at the time. But obviously the two obviously very local companies to me, and obviously you're from Birkenhead, obviously originally in that, but the two very different styles of shows. Obviously one's like an 18 plus and one's like a family friendly. Have you got a preference what you prefer to wrestle in front of? Is it like an 18 plus crowd or a family friendly, or you're not really bothered?
I think that for me personally, in terms of like, what works with my style and what works with my character, I like to think that I can adapt to any type of circumstance, any crowd or any type of show, without being too big headed. But I think that's part of like being a professional wrestler. You know what I mean? You work for the show that you're working for rather than working for yourself. But without digressing too much, I'd like to sort of give an answer to the question as much as I ever give answers to questions. I think as a baby face or as a good guy, my sort of character, my style tends to work better on like family type shows. Whereas if I'm portraying like an evil heel or a nasty bastard, I think it works better on over 18 type shows. That's not to say that it doesn't work the other way around, but I find it stylistically just those matches kind of tend to work better.
It's good that you're able to adapt to obviously each different promotion with what they're offering in the fan base. Obviously like I say, I've seen you in both companies, and then obviously when we were in Wrestle Island, we managed to meet afterwards and get a photograph with my lad, who obviously absolutely loves you. Thinks you're brilliant in the ring. So that was a nice touch at the end, and I do appreciate that.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolute pleasure, mate. Absolute pleasure.
Just to speak more on TNT, we've got a question from TNT ring announcer Mike Angus. He said, during your time at TNT, you were the Extreme Division champion, and he said to ask you about the times where you defended the title of the promotions.
Oh right, okay. So, right, no, yeah, of course, no, I totally did. I'd actually completely forgotten about that. I thought he'd got 2 different championships muddled up then, but no, we did. The TNT title ended up being defended at Rise and a couple of other places as well. Yeah. That was awesome. That was a great time. Like that whole, if I remember correctly, that whole period was sort of during the time when I was like going. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words now. Going through this feud with Boris Kozlov that was kind of like crossing over from Rise and going into TNT and a couple of other companies. And yeah, that was great. That was one of my favorite sort of storylines and whatnot. That was fantastic. I seem to remember if it's the same Mike Angus that we're both thinking of, that he was really rather inebriated at one of those shows, and I seem to remember him climbing up onto the ring apron at possibly a slightly inappropriate juncture. But maybe the less said about that, the better.
That sounds like Mad Dog.
He's a good egg, is Mike. I've always had a lot of good words to say about Mike. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, we had him on for the first interview, and the lads really enjoyed having him on. And I think he's going to do some work with us going forward as well into the future. Which would be. I think, didn't you also take the Wrestle Island Championship on tour too, if I remember right?
Yeah, to be honest, I thought that's what he was referring to. I thought he got the 2 belts muddled up. But no, we kind of made a big thing of that. That was like an open invitation kind of thing. Anyone that wanted to try and take the Wrestle Island title, even if you didn't want to come to Birkenhead to try and take it from us, we'll come to you kind of thing. So again, that was an amazing storyline. And we managed to take it to quite a few different promotions as well in quite a few different cities. So that was really cool. And I think it, not to pat myself on the back too much or give myself too much credit, because it was down to the promotions and and the other opponents as much as anything else. But no, I think we did a good job of kind of putting a bit more prestige on the title and making it seem more like a big deal, which I think is important for a main title of any company.
Just to piggyback on that, we had a question from one of our fans or your fans on Facebook, and he said that he feels that you put Wrestling Birkenhead on the map by taking that title to other promotions, and just like, how do you feel about the fact that you might have made it a lot bigger and more exposure by taking it around and touring it?
Well, yeah, I mean that is high praise indeed, and I definitely take that as a massive compliment. So I very much appreciate that sentiment has been put forward. And yeah, that was the intention. That was exactly what we wanted to do. So if we were successful in doing that, then that's absolutely cracking. Proper boss.
Yeah, I believe that was Graham Fisher, was it, that said that on the Facebook?
Oh, I absolutely forgot to write the name, but I'm fairly sure it was. So.
Very professional. Yeah, obviously Graham Fisher obviously goes to a lot of the TNT shows. He goes to a lot of the Wrestle Island shows. So, we've seen quite a lot of your work, and for him to say that, it must be good to hear.
Yeah, like I say, absolutely. That's definitely high praise indeed. And when you're trying to achieve a goal and someone says that you have, then it's satisfying, isn't it?
Yeah. Brilliant. So obviously, like I say, you've been champion in quite a few companies. But what was it any different? Was it any, like, I know you said obviously you've always wanted to wrestle in your hometown. So what was it like when you became a champion in your hometown?
Yeah, that was a hell of a moment. I think what makes it all the more special, and again, which kind of makes me appreciate wrestling in Birkenhead that much more, is that 9 times out of 10, like my mum and probably my sisters and some of my old friends from school are there. And I'll be totally honest, like as much as they're big supporters of mine and whatnot, they're not really that bothered to travel like miles and miles away to see wrestling shows when wrestling isn't there. Like it's not their passion or whatever. So like when it's something local, they always like really enjoy it, and they're always glad they came and whatnot. But for me personally, just from a selfish perspective, yeah, it's great to see me man in the crowd, you know, and like winning the title in front of her. It's yeah, I know she enjoyed it, and I'm sure I enjoyed it probably 10 times more.
It's a fantastic moment to be able to share that with your mum.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Brilliant. So just gonna swerve away from wrestling just a little bit. So obviously you're in a band as well.
Yeah, I am indeed.
So it's Woke Up Dead, isn't it? If I remember right.
That is correct. Yeah.
Yeah. She released the album last year, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It's like it's just this year's gone by so quick without it feeling like a real year's like happened. to say it was last year seems weird, but yeah, it was. Yeah, it was probably like a year and a half ago or something like that. It was like 2019, I think. But we were really happy. We were really happy with it. It's available on Spotify, iTunes, and anywhere that you can download music and whatnot. Sorry for getting the inappropriate plug in there, but you left it open for me.
No, it's a really good album. Obviously, when you first popped it up, because obviously I've got you on Facebook and that, so I thought I'll give it a little listen. And it's been part of my playlist for a while now, especially Superman 64, absolute boss track.
Yeah, no, I really love playing that one live as well.
Yeah. So when you play live, where about you play? Is it like clubs and stuff and pubs around Leeds, or?
Yeah, we've kind of played all over really. We doing. Sorry, I'm stumbling over words again. I'll string sentences together properly at some point. I promise. Yeah, we didn't have like a huge amount of gigs because with me wrestling like most weekends. Also, our drummer is like quite a sort of big deal in sound engineering and festival. What's the word for what side does with festivals? Festival organization, and whatnot. So we were both like a little bit too busy to take on any huge slew of gigs. But we played in quite a few different cities, supporting quite a few, not necessarily big bands, but big bands in terms of like the sort of punk scene. And we got to play Rebellion as well before all the restrictions came in, which is like the biggest punk festival in the world. So yeah, that was awesome. It's a shame because we would have liked to play more, but like there's just the time wasn't really there, and like we had to dedicate a lot of time to getting the album finished as well. It's amazing how much fucking work that takes. Sorry, pardon my French.
Don't worry, the amount of shit we say on this podcast, that's very tame compared to stuff we've said in the past.
All right, fair play then. I'll let me words flow more freely. But yeah, it was an awful lot of. It was a big undertaking finishing off the album as well, like coupled with everything else. So it's not like we didn't play live, but we didn't undertake any tours or anything like that. They were all just like individual gigs, dotted about here and there. Oh well, we kind of did like this mini tour. We set up. Let me think now. It was like 4 gigs over the space of 3 days or something. So we kind of did this like micro tour. But yeah, that's the extent of it.
Brilliant. And is it you that does the main vocals on the albums? Is it?
Yeah, it's me. Yeah, it's me singing and writing the songs and whatnot.
The writing as well. Yeah.
Yeah. That's also my department.
Fantastic. Some really good tracks. Obviously, if you haven't had a listen yet, go on to, I think it's on Spotify, Google Play. I think there's a few tracks on YouTube as well. So go on.
Yeah, I like they sort of got uploaded to YouTube without being uploaded to YouTube. It's kind of like when you put them out on like all the other streaming platforms, like they just sort of automatically went up there. Because it's not like our YouTube channel or anything. I only know that they're up there because like randomly stumbled upon them, but it's kind of weird. But to piggyback off what you were saying, Spotify, Google, iTunes, anywhere that music is available.
Anywhere that plays decent music. Did you get good feedback from that album then? Like, because I know obviously when you put it up, I think you've got a Facebook page as well for the band, haven't you?
Yeah.
And obviously, when you were putting it up, I did see a few people were putting on that they're going over now to have a listen and stuff. So did you get quite a lot of good feedback through the album that you released? Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of good feedback from the usual like friends and family and sort of like wrestling fans and whatnot. But yeah, we had quite a few good write-ups in sort of punk magazines and like websites and stuff.
Really?
I've not seen a bad review of it, so I guess that's positive, But I don't know, there might be some out there. Maybe I've been putting the blinkers on for anything negative. But yeah, but people generally been pretty positive about it. Just looking forward to being able to have at least the opportunity to record the next album, because album number 2 is already written, but until COVID goes away, we can't really do a right lot about it.
The show's already written and ready to go.
It is indeed, yeah, it is indeed. But it's just going to be on the back burner for a little while, unfortunately.
I know that's the problem, isn't it? At the moment, like obviously, Shane is stepping in the ring. Not too sure on when things are going to go ahead. I've seen the likes of TNT and other promotions. We're hoping to get shows in January and February, and obviously they've all had to cancel them at the moment. So obviously, wrestling's in the same with the album as well. So you must have a hell of a lot of free time at the moment. Maybe you'd be able to knock out album number 3.
yeah, possibly. Yeah, to be honest, I've been holding off writing any new music just because, like I say, album number 2 is already written. So I feel like if I start writing anything new, it's kind of just going to be wasted. It's just going to be sat there for too long. So yeah. Excuse me.
So going back to wrestling, obviously for a second, because obviously that's the main gist of it. Have you got like a favourite wrestler that you have worked with in the ring? Tag team together, or obviously
just trying to think like off the top of my head. Like, so yeah, some of my favourite opponents. Again, it's a tough one because once I start naming people, then I'm going to start feeling bad for the people that I've left out. But just we'll caveat this. I apologise to anybody that is slipping me mind. But yeah, off the top of my head, I have had an awful lot of matches with HT Drake, and we seem to always get like paired up together. But we've kind of tagged together. We've tagged against each other. We've been in multi-mans. We've been in hardcore matches. We've been in singles matches. We've been just like every possible combination you could possibly think of. We've been thrown up together, and he's always a great pro, and he's always a good guy to have around. So Drake's one that springs to mind. Liam Slater, often known as Liam Lazarus. Like, we've sort of travelled together and sort of learned the ropes and learned the roads together. But we've also wrestled each other like just more times than I can count, and he's sort of like one of my closest friends as a result of that. So yeah, I can't really not mention Liam. Jack Bandicoot, man, he's such a star. He's such a little. Are you guys familiar with Jack, one half of Crash Boat / Boys to Men?
No, can't say I am.
No, unfortunately not.
But yeah, I feel like he's bound to be a breakout star coming up in the next in the next year or two, or like when we're allowed to go back to wrestling anyway. But I can't not put both of them over, because both of Crash Boat / Boys to Men, as they're known in some places, Jake Silver and Jack Bandicoot. I've wrestled both of them so many times, and it's always been an absolute joy. But yeah, it's just me and Jack have just got some crazy chemistry, and we always seem to have like an absolute barn burner. They're the immediate names that spring to mind, like. But I could probably list off another 50 if, like, you know what I mean, if time permitted.
So obviously you've been wrestling for about 15 years now.
Well, sort of. Like I've been a little bit in and out. There was a cumulative wise. I guess I've probably been wrestling about 9-10 years, 8 or 9 maybe. It's hard. It's hard to say. Start putting everything together. But yeah, it's real hard trying to remember your own history, innit? You know what I mean? Especially when you put on the spot. I kind of wrestled quite significantly, quite a lot for the first sort of few years, like I say, in the early 2000s, 2004 to kind of 7-ish, something like that. But then I was in a band that was sort of like doing really well, and we had a manager, and we got signed and all, like, various stuff. They actually made us sign contracts that we weren't allowed to partake in dangerous sports. So I ended up sort of just not doing any wrestling like at all. For like several years. Initially it was because of the band, but then just like various other things and work and whatnot kind of got in the way. So it wasn't until probably about 2012, 13 that I kind of like got back into it. And even then it was a bit of a gradual thing. It was sort of like 2013, 14 that I was like back wrestling again, you know, like properly doing shows and in shape and sort of taking it seriously. But yeah, there was a big gap of like a good sort of five years or something in the middle there. I'm not quite as much of a vet as it kind of sounds from the initial like 15-year thing, because 15 years is like a hell of a long time, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So how did you find that? Like, obviously you said you stopped wrestling, you know, to obviously push the band, because obviously you had that contract saying that you can participate in dangerous sports. Was there a time where you looked at it and you maybe were thinking you'd rather stick with wrestling and then not do the band, or was it like at the time was it like a no-brainer to stick with the band because it was doing so well?
Yeah, I think like I always kind of had the mentality in those early years, particularly because I did split my time quite a lot between playing music and with wrestling. I didn't really have a priority either way, and I always just kind of had this mentality of whatever works out, that's what I'll go for. And if it felt like the music was working out, whereas the wrestling maybe wasn't moving as quick as I maybe wanted it to, being a bit younger and a bit more immature and kind of wanting the moon on a stick and whatnot. So yeah, like you say, it was a bit of a no-brainer, and when we had to sign the contracts, the choice was also completely made for me in that regard. It didn't take long until I started sort of like really missing it, and having dreams about doing suplexes and whatnot, like recurring dreams about being in rings and running ropes and just it being practically every night. To the point where I was just like, right, yeah, I'm gonna have to go back to it. But when I did go back, my priorities had changed completely to the point where it was something that I wanted to dedicate myself to. And I think even if like a music thing had come along where there was some potential success or some potential like a potential avenue to go down with the music, I don't think I would have taken it at that juncture, because my all my priorities lied with wrestling. I think that's a testament to what's sort of currently going on with the band and with Woke Up Dead. As great as it is, and as much as I enjoy it, and as much as we try and push it as much as we can, it's never going to not be a secondary thing to professional wrestling. So it's always going to be sort of somewhat of a hobby rather than a vocation.
Yeah. Just to, obviously you've been saying like you've been doing it for 15 years and stuff, but we've got a question that comes from James Richards, who is also part of our podcast. He said, have you got like an overall aim in wrestling? For example, is it to be like a mainstay, and like, do you want to go to Japan, or do you want to be like one of the main stars of the UK wrestling division, like industry, or do you want to go to like WWE or AEW or anywhere like that?
Yeah, I'm going to slightly sort of not sidestep that question, but like my aims in wrestling are probably a little bit like my aims in wrestling are probably a little bit different than your average wrestler or like what you might expect. As much as a contract would be nice, and as much as going to Japan or WWE or wherever else would be lovely. I'm not going to say I would turn down opportunities like that. My sort of main aims in professional wrestling at the moment are to sort of give back to wrestling, and give back to the community. I've been involved a little bit more in training and in sort of development of younger guys, which is something that looks to be sort of continuing, developing more in 2021. There's quite a lot more sort of training opportunities, in terms of like me trying to expand what little knowledge I have on the younger guys, and trying to be a positive influence, trying to mentor people in a positive way, trying to make sure that the right things are done, and things are done in the right way. And yeah.
Next generation, then, yeah.
Sorry, say that again.
Bring it on the next generation of wrestlers.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not the young wrestler that I used to be. So like I say, I don't think that I'm I'm past my prime. I think I've got a lot of years to give, and I think that I could certainly I could certainly offer a lot to somewhere that would, like, potentially offer me a contract, but that's not really at the age I'm at now and at the position that I'm in. That's not really what's sort of driving me. I'm more sort of thinking about like putting back and maybe helping some of the younger guys have a bit of a platform, and maybe helping some of the younger guys not make the mistakes that some other people have, and you know what I mean. Yeah, that's where my head is in professional wrestling at the moment.
Brilliant. It's always good to see, especially like within the wrestling community, like there is so many wrestlers that are looking to help and bring on the next generation. In other sports, there's you can have it where people are like, well, I'm not going to help this person because they're in the same position I'm in. They could get, they could get my position basically. You know what I mean? But obviously, you see it a lot more in wrestling, where everyone's looking to help bring up and push the next star.
Yeah, and I think that's the sort of attitude that needs to be promoted. Like wrestling is a cutthroat industry. There's no denying it, and there's a lot of competition, and there always will be. That's not something that's ever going to just go away. But yeah, I think the sort of attitude that we're all in this together is an attitude that should be like explored more and promoted, like I say.
Brilliant. So obviously we're not knowing what's going on in the next couple of months or the next year or so, but are we expected to see you in the likes of TNT and Rise and Wrestland and that in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I didn't want my answer to the last question to sound in any way like I'm slowing down or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like I'm absolutely here to be kicking as much ass as I was previously, if not more so. You know what I mean? It's just by the same token, there's some new training schools and whatnot opening up soon. So that's kind of like at the forefront of my mind, if you know what I mean. But in terms of bookings going into next year, I had a lot of shows scheduled in for the end of January, which was when I was. I mean, my assumption was that there's a fair chance that they might not end up going ahead. With everything being so speculative as it is, but I had to train like as if these shows were happening at the end of January. They have all now been cancelled, unfortunately. I also have the ones in February, and it looks like that looks likely to continue into at least the start of March. But going forward, as soon as we get the go ahead, you'll be seeing my pretty face at all the usual places where you would be used to seeing my beautiful visage.
Gonna be curb stomping some people around Birkenhead and Liverpool.
I'll be curb stomping extra hard. I believe I've accentuated my curb stomping ability, so my right foot now stomps a little bit harder than it did before.
I'm sure people can't wait to get in the ring with you.
This is a very weird question, but one of our podcast co-host insisted that we ask you this question. You spoke about your face. Do you ever get compared to CM Punk? We were told that we had to ask you this.
Oh, I thought you said you were going to ask a weird question rather than the most common rudimentary question in history. It has been brought up on numerous occasions, as one might expect. I mean, I can't really help having similar features to another human being. It's just kind of real unfortunate that we both are in the same profession. So you know what I mean? It's like if CM Punk was, I don't know, like a Tiddlywinks player or something, we made so frequently. But it has been brought to my attention. Yeah. He's a good-looking lad too. So what you gonna do? I can't really complain about that, can I?
It's better than saying that you look like, say, like a hornswoggle or someone like that, I suppose.
Yeah. Jason Voorhees.
Oh, speaking on Jason Voorhees, you had didn't you have a time in the ring where you were coming out with like Halloween masks and stuff, if I remember?
Yeah, I did indeed. That was that was part. It started as part of a storyline at Tidal, but I because I'm such a big horror nerd, like I ended up just sort of like taking it everywhere with me. freaking people out coming out to the Halloween music with a freaky looking dude in a Michael Myers mask coming out just to entertain me no end, to be honest. But we did I know you didn't ask this, but I'm going to tell the story anyway. Bollocks
Yeah,
to it.
yeah.
We did a fantastic angle at Tyler. One of my favorite things that I've ever been involved in. I was on the shelf, injured. I'd had shoulder surgery.
Right.
Basically, like the as far as it was purported, I wasn't going to be coming back for like months and months. Everyone thought that I was still going to be on the shelf for several months. And we did this angle where Liam, who I was feuding with at the time, he's in the ring after his victory. The lights go out, and then a dude in a Michael Myers mask with with the boiler suit gimmick like appears on the stage. He's like, "Yo, what the fuck's going on?" And another one appears in the ring behind him, and another one appears, and then he's like surrounded by all these Michael Myers dudes. One of them gets in the ring behind him, takes the mask off, and it's my good self making the reveal. But all with the the Halloween music in the background and stuff. It was I thought it was some creepy shit anyway, and like it felt like a pretty effective angle. But that was the start of it, and then it was meant to be just a title thing, but I just took the mask everywhere with me then, because why not?
That's it, innit? I remember seeing a couple of pictures. I'm not sure if you put them on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, but I have seen on your Facebook page like the amount of times that you're obviously you're proper into your horror movies and that, aren't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do love me horror, no doubt.
Have you got a favorite franchise?
That's such a tough one, and I'm such a nerd that it's difficult for me to just answer it with one word, because
Yeah.
I mean, Halloween is my favorite movie of all time, but I wouldn't necessarily say that the 1978 original, yeah, but I wouldn't necessarily say that Halloween's the best franchise, because some of the later movies are a little bit weak. I think that the Friday the 13th movies, although like none of them are anywhere near as strong as like the first Nightmare on Elm Street or the first Halloween, for example, the Friday movies are all really consistent. There's not really any major stinkers apart from maybe Jason Goes to Hell. But then I think the Child's Play series is really, really, really interesting. I think it's not an obvious choice for best franchise, but they tried to do some really interesting things, particularly with the later movies, and there aren't really any bad Child's Play films as well. See the Chucky's not great, but that's not that terrible. It's kind of interesting. That was way more information than you asked for. There you go.
Yeah, but it's like you say though, if you're really interested in something, and like say you're a big like horror nerd, as you put it, you can't answer it in a simple question. Like, I'm not massively into my horror movies, but obviously I love the Friday the 13th movies. I think Jason Voorhees is superb. I love the character, and again it's like Freddy as well, Freddy Krueger from Nightmare on Elm Street, and not a lot of people love it, but I fucking absolutely love Freddy versus Jason. I think that's just a boss movie.
It's there's certainly a lot that happens in it, and there's certainly like a lot thrown at the screen in 90 minutes. You know what I mean? It's an entertaining thrill ride. I'm not going to say it's my favorite, but it's definitely an entertaining watch.
100%.
I've just got one more question. Sorry to cut you off there, Ryan, but this is from Danny Sangster on Facebook, and he said, "What's your favorite match as a wrestler, and then what's your favorite match as a fan?"
That's my brother, Danny Sangster. It's his birthday today. Little shout out.
Oh God, this is so tough. Okay, well I'll go like favorite match as a fan. There's two that spring to mind immediately. These might not be like the absolute number one choices, but they're just the ones that pop into my mind. Both Bret Hart matches. The double turn against Austin at WrestleMania 13. That is storytelling personified. Like it doesn't really get much better than that. That was pretty incredible, and it's always going to come up whenever I'm thinking of favorite matches. And another one, WrestleMania 8, Roddy Piper and Bret. Every time I watch that, because it's quite short. I think when you think of the greatest matches, you think that they kind of have to be these epic encounters, and Piper versus Bret is relatively short in that context. But every time I watch it, I always think, I don't think there's ever been a match better than this. Like that's always the thought that's going through my head. So yeah, that's another obvious pick. In terms of favorite matches, oh man, Actually, right, okay. Again, I could name lots of things for this, and I don't want to piss anyone off by not mentioning them. But this just came up in conversation the other day as well, and also it's relatively topical because we've just had Christmas. But several years ago, I had a Miracle on Freeman street fight match with Dan James, and it was possibly the most fun I've ever had in a wrestling ring. Although, we're not meant to have fun. We're beating each other up in a non-kayfabe way. He smashed up Santa. He disrespected he disrespected a stuffed Olaf toy, and he generally was just very unfavorable towards Christmas. So like there was just all sorts of like festive, like there was power bombs onto presents, and like I'd wrapped tinsel and bauble lights around my arm before giving him a clothesline, and like the finish was like we wrapped him up in a coffin-sized Christmas present, and then we shipped him off to the North Pole so he couldn't spread his evil non-Christmas bullshit any further. So yeah, that was awesome. So there you go. There's my favorite match.
Is that available to watch anywhere, like YouTube or anything like that? Do you know?
No, it's not. But Dan said that he's got it on video somewhere, so maybe it will get uploaded at some. It was in front of a packed out Grimsby something somewhere. It was packed out. I'll tell you what, that like could not fit like one other human being in that building. It was absolutely packed, and it was Grimsby somewhere. As much as I can tell you. Oh no, it was on Freeman Street, wasn't it? 'Cause it was the Miracle on Freeman Street fight match. So there you go. What more information?
Yeah.
Well, that's all the questions that I have. I don't know if you want to ask anything else, Ryan.
No, I think we've pretty much touched on as much as we can today. Are you happy where we're at, Sean?
Yeah, awesome. Been great chatting to you guys.
Do you want to plug your social media or anything?
Yeah, why not? You can follow me at Real Sean Only. I think that's my handle for pretty much everything: Twitter, Instagram, and all that shit. Yeah, at Real Sean Only, and be good people.
Obviously, follow the podcast subscribe on YouTube, Facebook. We're at Hardcam Wrestling everywhere, Twitter. Like the video, comment with feedback, and that's pretty much it. Thanks a lot for your time, Sean.
Oh, absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for having us on, guys.
Thanks, guys. See you.
Thank you very much.